Hi everybody, and welcome to this online lesson. I'm Kalani, and a lot of my students have been asking about how to play the Native American flute, and I use this in my work as a musician, as a music therapist, and as a community music making guide. So this is the basic flute, and I've got to tell you that it's just a wonderful instrument. It's incredibly easy and accessible. However, you can make very substantial and complex music, or it can be very soothing. There's lots and lots of reasons to play the flute, in addition to the fact that it's just a beautiful instrument. There's a vast heritage and connection with Native American music, of course, and I want to make it clear that I'm not in any way trying to represent the traditions of Native American musicians or Native Americans in general. However, I do think that the flute, which is part of their culture, part of their music, is a wonderful instrument that anyone can enjoy and learn, and whether you're playing music that you make up or you'd like to look into the traditions of Native American music, it's a wonderful place to start. It's a beautiful entry point into the culture and the music of either traditional music or just music that's inside of you. So before we get into how to play the flute, I'm going to introduce you to the components of the flute. So let's look at the construction and familiarize ourselves with the parts of the flute. First of all, you'll notice that it's a long tube, and this flute is made from aromatic cedar. Flutes are made from all different kinds of wood: walnut, Spanish cedar, poplar, different, all kinds of different wood, ebony and oak and different woods. This is aromatic cedar. It's traditional. And you notice that there's a big hole at this end and a small hole at the other end. We blow through the small hole end. On top of the flute, this is one of the most prominent features, is what is called the fetish or totem or bird. And in this case, I'm not sure how well you can see that, but in this case, this actually is a little bird. This flute is made by High Spirits Flutes, and it's called the Sparrowhawk in A. So I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that this is probably representation of a sparrow. The other feature that you'll notice right away, likely, is that there's holes in the top. These are our finger holes. And this particular flute has 6 holes, however, one of them is covered up with a piece of leather. So we're going to call this a 5-hole flute. It's set up as a 5-hole flute. And it's got 3 holes on the bottom, which we're going to play with our right hand, and 2 holes on the top, which we'll play with our left hand. I'll get to that in the next lesson. For now, just notice that the bird, or fetish, or totem, is tied onto the top of the flute, and right underneath, I'm going to walk up so you can see this, right underneath that bird is a little tiny hole. You can see it there. That's called the fipple or the flue, and out of the bird, here, right underneath the bird, is a tiny slit. And so what happens is the air, you blow in here, the air travels along this part, it goes up, and it shoots out from the hole. You can see it, there's a tiny slit in the bird. It shoots out there across this hole, this cut, and it splits. And that splitting of air is what makes the sound come out of the flute. Then this part here, which is not connected to this part, remember it goes here, it goes up, the air goes out. So from here down, from the bird down to the end, is called the bore. And that's a separate chamber. And as you place your fingers over the holes and remove your fingers from the holes, you're effectively changing the length from the fipple or the flue to the end of the flute. And therefore changing the length of the column of air that's vibrating inside of this tube of wood. And that's what gives you the different notes. So that's a pretty quick and hopefully easy way to understand how the flute makes the different notes. And one of the reasons this is such an accessible instrument is because it's essentially a whistle. that you don't have to form any sort of embouchure or fancy, configuration with your lips and blow over a hole and get the sound to come out. It's already done for you by the bird blowing across the flue. So you can get a sound out of the flute just by blowing into it. This is an A flute, and so that note you just heard was an A. So to get set up to play, we want to make sure, and this is going to be difficult for you to see, so I'm going to come up again. So I want you to see this. We want to make sure that the bird is just behind that rectangular hole. You see it there? It's just in back of it. And you can see the air hole there where the air comes out. We want to make sure that it's lined up just behind that hole. And that way, we'll have a nice tone. So the first things that you can do with the flute, to introduce yourself to the flute, is you can do two kinds of breath. And I call these the ha breath and the ta breath. The ha breath is a soft breath sound. It has a gradual slope, and it's a soft starting sound. And it sounds like this. So actually, if you do it away from the flute, it would be ha, ha. Or if I remove the vocal part of it, ha, ha. Okay, so it's like that, but gentle. Okay, that's ha. The ta breath uses an immediate start. It's an immediate sound, and we produce that by placing our tongue towards the top of our mouth, the roof of our mouth, towards the front, and just say the word ta, 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 ta. And what that does is it creates a little bit of back pressure so that when the note starts, it starts immediately and in a strong sound at a higher volume than ramping up as we did in the ha. So this is what the ta breath would sound like on the flute. So the difference between ha and ta, I'll play 4 ha's and then 4 ta's. So those are basically our two basic ways that we create sound on the flute using our breath. Now, one thing that you can do to make it a little bit easier on you, and I'm not going to get too much into things like talking about condensation, but later on we'll talk about that. The thing that you can do is to bisect the hole, the mouthpiece, with your upper lip, thereby blocking part of this hole with your upper lip, so you're not putting your lips over the entire flute, over the entire mouthpiece, but you're just placing it on your upper lip and kind of blowing into the bottom half, or even less, the bottom half of this hole. And that allows you to remain in a comfortable position. It kind of you can just relax your facial muscles, and it gives you a little bit of back pressure, so that when you blow into the flute, you can control your breath a little more. You can control the air. And later on, when we talk about vibrato and other kinds of techniques, that will be more important. Also, it'll reduce the amount of condensation in the flute that's caused by the difference in temperature between your warm breath and the cool flute or the cold air around in your environment, which produces moisture in the flute, and that can create problems. But there's ways to get around that and to remedy that. So that's the introduction to the Native American style flute. This is an A flute. There's other sizes of flutes available. This is a flute in C. It's a higher pitched flute. This is a flute in E, and this one is a lower pitched flute. This is technically a bass flute. You can see it has all the same features. It's similar, but this one, like I said, is in E. Or if I play the low note, you get more of an idea of how low it goes. Okay, so in the next lesson I'll be showing you how to play melodies, and we'll go from there. So thanks for joining me, and I hope you can enjoy playing the Native American style flute. Thanks.